In late 2008, I was travelling through outback Queensland, Australia with my rock and roll band, The Basics, and we stayed a few nights in a small town called Winton. Winton is home to an odd instrument called the musical fence. I'd brought a portable stereo recorder with me on the trip, hoping to come across interesting sounds that I could sample, so this was a pretty exciting thing to discover. The fence was designed and constructed by Melbourne percussionist Graham Leake, and is basically 5 large fence strings that are attached to a wooden resonant chamber for amplification. The night I spent sampling the musical fence was really windy, so I spent hours holding the recorder inside my jacket and using my body to shield it from the wind to get good samples. These sounds eventually became the bass line for the song Eyes Wide Open. When I got back from that outback trip, I wrote the song on the piano in one fairly short sitting. That wasn't something I'd done before with a Gotye song. Generally in the past I'd start with samples and sound textures that would then inspire melodies and lyrics. This was the first song I'd written in ages, and I'd been wanting to move away from sampling as a songwriting process, so Eyes Wide Open proved to be a good test for arranging and recording a song from scratch. That said, the samples of the Winton musical fence suggested themselves immediately for the tone of a track, so they were the first piece of the puzzle to fit. There's piano on the track too, and that felt right because that's how the song was written, but it ended up pretty buried in the mix under everything else that I came up with afterwards. Eyes Wide Open is a dystopian vision that probably couldn't be more at odds with the place I recorded it. My parents have a beautiful block of land on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria, and it's one of my favourite places in the world. I think that's where I feel the happiest, catching up with my folks, hanging out with the family cats, just enjoying this feeling I get every time I'm there, like I've discovered some lost natural haven, untouched by the modern world. Maybe it's some kind of subconscious fear of losing a place like that in my life, like some weird sense of inevitability that indirectly inspired these apocalyptic musings of Eyes Wide Open and the tone of resignation in the song. I've got my studio set up in a big barn there too. I spent quite a few years moving around share houses in Melbourne, taking my growing collection of recording gear from one small room to another small room. So it was fantastic to finally be able to find a permanent space in the barn where I could set everything up and work solidly on a new Gotye record. It's not an ideal space acoustically. Birds, high-speed traffic even hundreds of metres away, and the odd tractor all have to be worked around. Acoustic treatment tubes that my dad built helped with vocal recording in the space. It's mainly been great to feel I have a space that's my own and where I can record for long hours uninterrupted. I've always loved the sound of the pedal steel guitar, and it just seemed like the perfect instrument for capturing the sense of a lonely wasteland I wanted for the track. It's just got a languid tone about it that captures a feeling I remember when I sampled the Winton musical fence, as if I was alone on this windy plateau, the only human left after some massive calamity and interfacing with a remnant of a bygone civilization. I called up my friend Michael Hubbard, who used to play guitar in The Basics, and he came over for an afternoon and played a heap of gorgeous pedal steel guitar that became a feature of the track. I'd never recorded any live drums on a Gotye track before. Everything had always been programmed or sampled and manipulated in software. So Eyes Wide Open was a great song to start with because it features one of my favourite drum grooves, a gallop beat. also has some pretty big drum syncopations and fills that are great to record on big floor toms. There's a lot of vocal layering on the new Gotye record, and it proved challenging at times engineering my own vocals, but the chance to work on things at my own speed helped a lot. There's a fairly dense backing vocal layered section in Eyes Wide Open that isn't featured very prominently in the mix. I worked with a brilliant man named Frank Titaz on the mixing of my record. Frank's really technically gifted, but he's also really musical and has lots of different styles of music as reference points, so he's kind of able to work out the sound I'm hearing in my head. It's a great feeling when all these sounds from different times and places finally come together to make a whole listening experience. I hope Eyes Wide Open resonates with people and maybe they get a sense of that isolated but somehow inspired feeling I got when at the musical fence in Winton, sampling sounds that I hoped would travel with me and become part of a larger story of a song.